Welcome back to another episode of Adam's Everything EV. And today I have a very special guest. We actually met because of our Prologue ownership. I aspire to accomplish as much as he has in his career. Peter McCart, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being on.
Good to be here, Adam. You do a great job, and I'm happy with my prologue, and I'm happy that I connected with you and seen your videos. You have the best videos out there, and I really appreciate it.
You and I have a lot in common, and I always like to meet people like that. You are the Director of Energy Conservation and Sustainability Office of Westchester County Executive.
That is correct. I'm
Okay.
kind of like a part of the county executive's cabinet, if you will.
For the sake of the people watching, can you give us just a quick background and kind of how you made it to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I was born there in the Queen City. Uh, so many years ago, and then I went to school in Middletown High School, the home of J.D. Vance. His mother graduated my class at Middletown High School, and then I went to Columbia University in New York City, and I lived there for 31 years. I worked in banking originally, and then I was tired and bored of it, quite frankly, and had a kid, and decided we needed to move to the burbs. So we moved just north of New York City. My house is about 4 miles from the Bronx line, New York City line, and the Westchester County. Westchester County is a home to a lot of athletes and celebrities, and actually Bill and Hillary Clinton live here. Donald Trump, our current president, has his main house here in Westchester. A lot of other people. So, but we have the demographics are we just over 1 million people population. We have extreme wealth as well as some people in disadvantaged communities as well. So we have a full spectrum from top to bottom, and so when I was in my second thing I got into was advertising. I had a friend that was working in advertising for a newspaper, a publication down in Manhattan, and I did that for a while. And I noticed that in my town, there wasn't an environmental committee. And so I worked with one of the local politicians who was on the town board, and we created an environmental committee, the Eastchester Environmental Committee. And then from there, I realized that the environment, air, water, doesn't stop at the town lines. And so we needed some sort of regional aspect. So we expanded that into Southern Westchester Environmental Action Coalition, collating all these different committees that are created around. And then from there, we created, there was a northern group that was kind of based around the same thing. And we decided to bring them together and create what we now call Sustainable Westchester. So I was on the founding board member. We met for a year and a half to get that to be created. It's a nonprofit, a 501c3. And that's been, we just had our 10th anniversary of that organization. So I've been in the space of sustainability, environment. And the reason I really got into it because of my connection with transportation. Um, you know, uh, alternative, try to get people out of their cars, quite frankly. Living in New York City, we depend on the subway and the trains and buses and mass transit, and it's clean and green. So I kind of wanted to, work on that when I got up to the burbs, and I certainly did. I was instrumental in making sure that we had express buses going across our new bridge. It was the largest infrastructure project in the United States for a while. It used to be called the Tappan Zee Bridge, and now it's Mario Cuomo Bridge. And it connects, a lot of the upstate with the city, coming through Westchester County, and I worked on that. And I got involved with politics. Quite frankly, I got involved with my local. He was my assembly member, and then he became my senator, and then he ran for office to be county executive. And when he became county executive, he asked me to come on and work with him in this space of sustainability, and that's where I am now. And I couldn't be happier. My actually the guy that I'm good friends with, and brought me here to the county government. Just got elected to U.S. representative down in D.C. So he's now down there. and one of my other good friends is now the county executive here, Ken Jenkins. So that's how I got to where I am, and mostly around transportation, quite frankly. And then EVs came around, and I'm a big EV proponent, and that's where I am. So I could go on, Adam. So you got to put a stop on me at some point in another.
Oh no, well, I love hearing about your background, and congratulations on 10 years also, and to your fellow partners who've, it sounds to me like they've come a long way and they've made some great strides recently. So definitely congratulations on that. You are an EV driver yourself, and I know we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty about what you do as well. But let's, on surface level, just how has your EV experience been so far, and what kind of roadblocks, hurdles do you feel like we are experiencing as a society when it comes to the adoption?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you would ask me this question a year ago, I would have had a different answer. But I think, to me, the big hindrance, obviously, there's always the charging issue. Or there's the fast charging issue. Here in New York State, that has been really pretty much alleviated. I'd say the whole Northeast has really got a pretty good infrastructure, especially with Tesla now allowing non-Tesla vehicles to charge there, and that's expanding. So charging used to be the issue. For me, though, it was always about the models that were available and the affordability of them. So, I was a PHEV driver. I've had a few of those, and now I'm on my second full EV. I still own the two PHEVs, plug-in hybrids, one for my wife and one for my daughter. And then we got this new Prologue that we just absolutely love. I mean, for me, it was about models. I needed size. I'm a big guy. My wife is tall. My kids are all tall, and we also needed to replace our gas car, which was a CX-9, a Mazda CX-9, which is, we lugging stuff around. We take long trips. We go down the Outer Banks and spend a week down there. We got all our stuff that we got to put in there, fishing equipment, and everything else. So we needed really a big cabin. I'm also in a band, and we got to put all the band equipment in the back of that thing. You know the deal, Adam. You're a musician. So I was looking for a model like that, and I couldn't really find it without spending a lot of money, for one of the Cadillacs or even the X. I'm not sure the capacity side between the X and the Prologue. You probably had the details on that. You're the guy on that. But it really suited. And then when we went in to look at, looked at the Blazer, the other, the other half of this,
The twin.
yeah, the twin, if you will, yeah, separated at birth, and I we looked at it. I liked that. I was moving forward with that. I didn't want to deal with not having Android Auto in my car. So but that's a minor thing. You can get over that. I did it with our Kia Sportage plug-in. I was able to get through that, but I don't want to have that dongle, that whole thing. But that's beside the point. When we did go to the Honda, the lease deal that they gave us was off the hook. We were like, my wife and I were like side-eye looking at each other like, okay, don't let them know, but we're going to sign the papers today. It was that good a deal. And, to have all the other things that I was looking for and then to have a great price, we were just sold immediately. And I believe there's a lot of great EVs out there, depending on what you're looking for. That Toyota ZBX9 or whatever the hell that thing is called for $179 on a lease. I mean, you can't beat that. If you're looking for a sporty kind of car that's, not real small, like a Bolt or something, it's fantastic. So that's how I got to here where I am now.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. You and I have something in common, that we started with plug-in hybrids. I had a Honda Clarity, and just really quickly, you made through our other discussion, you said that maybe plug-in hybrids are a place to start. Do you still feel that way after getting a full EV, or do you think people should just jump all the way? How do you feel about that?
No, that's my personal feeling. I think, for me I was ready to jump in with an EV, but, my wife not so much. She had a mild case of range anxiety, and she still kind of does, of course. So to get around that, I think, the plug-in hybrid is, I call the training wheels for, moving to the EV. And so I still think that, and I think there's almost a spot for having if you have two cars, having an EV and having a plug-in hybrid. I think there might be something there. Some of these plug-ins are getting 50 miles now, on a charge, and that's just awesome. The studies are out there now that 85% of all trips you take are under 20 miles or something crazy. I don't know the stats on it. I got them here in my fingertips somewhere, but so that's the way I feel.
Okay, well, I spent $300 on gas in 3 years with a plug-in hybrid, so I'm definitely in that
Yeah.
80 to 90% of trips, and that was such a good feeling. But I have a solar in the backyard, and
Same here.
so yeah, and so that was kind of the big motivator for me. I'm like, I really wish that I could just get all of my driving for free, or or at least at a very steep discount. This time of year, you don't get it for free. There's not enough sunshine, but but you're right. I do think that there is an element of training that can definitely be expressed and you observed, at least, even if you don't plug it in all the time, you get to know what that electric mode is like, and
Yeah.
kind of how to preserve range, and what the regen is like, things of that nature. So yeah, it's another thing we have in common. We have a similar journey to the full electric, and also on the same note with the Prologue, what an amazingly capable car. So much practicality there. It's big, it's comfortable, it's easy to tolerate, and I've had just an excellent experience with mine. I'm over 7,000 miles now, right? About time for a tire rotation is how far I've made it. So
Wow.
yeah, so
About 1,300 miles for me so far.
okay, well, now have you taken a long trip yet?
No, not really. No, I haven't. I haven't. Nope. But I got it all planned out.
Okay.
There's that one app. I can't remember the. I haven't even used it yet. But
A better route planner.
yeah, the absolute planner, route
A
planner.
better route planner. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely valuable because you can kind of model your trip with different parameters as you go.
Yeah.
I will demo that app for you. I'll make you a video and I'll give you a good demo of it. So you have, with your position, you have a really unique opportunity. You're talking to the county executives. You also have partners in business, and you guys, you invited me to a presentation, which I was really excited to check that out online, where you guys had a $212,000 grant. Can you explain your partnership with Energen and just how that system works and what you guys are doing as far as sustainability with the grid? Because I know the grid's a concern.
It is a concern. So the name of the company is New Energen that we team with. It's not a new type of thing, but we're doing it on a grand scale. Our electric bill every month is $2 million.
Okay.
It's mostly around our wastewater treatment plants. We have 1 million people again, so
Right.
we have 7 wastewater treatment plants that are all electric, of course. So it's a demand response program. So there are certain times in the year that we have what we call NISO, New York Independent Service Operators. They maintain our grid here on the East Coast, and they call on us. It's an event, and it's usually during the months of July and August when it's really hot and everybody's at work or at home or whatever. It's usually during the day, work week, when there's a chance for, the grid to be peaked out, quite frankly. So this minimizes brownouts, blackouts, as well as the need to build new infrastructure, which is almost always, in our case, gas fired. But as we start to transition to electric here in New York and on the East Coast and country, quite frankly. So I know you're coal based there in West Virginia, so it's
Yeah.
uh,
Well, there's a fun discussion here. It's
yeah,
people don't want to switch to electric here, but they're very pro coal because, I mean, it's been the backbone of our economy since we
yeah,
started it, essentially. Whether it was the railroads or the mining itself, it's always been just absolutely paramount to being successful here in West Virginia. And I always tell them, well, the electric vehicles run on coal. So
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's not the most efficient way to generate power, but it is domestic. 100% of the time. So
Yeah.
there's always an advantage there. But I really like what you're doing. So the some of the money you're earning, and that's from basically taking opportunities to scale down power consumption.
That's
So
you draw down our power. We draw down our electric when they were called on by the night. So we're in these programs. It's utility driven or it's done by the night. So we actually had our first winter program this past winter. We had really cold temperatures here in New York, as well as the whole country. And we had our first winter program. We were told to draw down our electricity. Yeah, we not only save energy, save electricity by drawing all the anything we can, anything non-essential, we draw down between our buildings and our facilities. But we also earn money. They pay us. It's cheaper to pay us to do this, to incentivize it. And if you don't do it for whatever reason, we have a, a jail, for lack of a better term. I think it's called a correction facility, but we have a jail here. It's very large scale. It's our county jail. And there are times when you just can't do it, and then we don't get penalized for not doing it, not fulfilling it.
okay, but well, so what you're saying is a similar program, at least for a homeowner, would be where they switch to like a consumption-based timed type of thing to where, hey, if you charge your car between, let's say, midnight and 6 a.m., you're getting either free or extremely cheap.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what you're doing is you say, hey, I'm going to take the initiative to conserve the power when we can and move things around.
Yeah.
Do you think that electric vehicles are a threat to the grid?
Well, if we weren't building new renewable energy facilities, I would say so. But we have, here, I can speak for, here on the East Coast, we have a lot of offshore wind that's going up and going up quickly, as well as solar. We have massive amounts of solar, and we also have hydro. So we're very fortunate for the county facilities. I mentioned my electric bill, $2 million a month. Well, a lot of that comes from a quasi public private entity utilities called New York Power Authority. New York City gets all their New York City government, not the residents and businesses, but the New York City government and the train system, the subway system, get all their electricity as we do from a New York Power Authority. Also, all the municipalities in Westchester County get their power from New York Power Authority. And the vast majority of that is Niagara Falls, the facility in Niagara Falls, as well as some of our other hydro, which is even cleaner than solar or offshore wind.
Wow.
It's just constantly running. It's not all of it. I'm not lying or putting lipstick on a pig here. But it truly is helped. And our electric bill is low because we're doing it in a aggregated aspect. It's not as expensive.
Okay, well, and then being sustainable is a big part of it. You have some initiatives that you've led, designed, and helped implement that I'm really interested in. I'll rattle some off, and you can maybe pick a winner and break it down for me. We've got buses, you've got parking lot improvements, employee charging, some grants, and then some opportunities for businesses and people to install infrastructure cheaply. Can you break down any of that or whatever you choose? I was so interested in the materials you sent me. There's just so much to ask, and we'd be here all day if I got to ask it all.
It's so true. We're not even going to talk about music, are we, Adam?
Not this. Well, we had a great discussion earlier, but yeah, I'll have to save it for another one.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's true. So there's, my main job here is setting policy and making sure that what we're doing is doing it in the right way. And we have passed a few laws, and I could just go through them. I won't get into the details unless you want to. The biggest one is that we created a local law. It's for our it's called an act, actually, and it's for our facilities and our operations, that any vehicle that we buy has to be an electric vehicle, and that includes plug-in hybrid, as long as there's a model that is based for it. There are a few little outs, here and there, but and we've been sticking to that. We've got nearly 100 bolts. We have an entire fleet of 1,400 vehicles that are part of our DPW/transportation department. That includes a couple airplanes, a couple helicopters, a couple boats. We haven't really got there with the electric on those. And then some of our big heavy equipment, not so much either. But we are buying, more pickups, Rivians and Lightnings. So that, and a lot of bolts and a lot of the Prius Primes, and then maintenance guys. You guys going to get rid of our job? What's going on here? Because they're easy to maintain. I mean, and the guys like them. They appreciate the vehicles. So when we're getting, we have vans, and it just keeps expanding. That's what you asked me about before. I'm really happy about the fact that there are more and more models, different types of vehicles that are now becoming electrified, that we can use. So we have a law in the books that any car has to be. The other law that we wrote and has been very um, it's been very, very well received is that when we're doing any work on a parking garage or a parking lot, 20% of the parking spaces have to have electric charging there, and it's level two charging. And that's been going on with a limit of 50 chargers, because some of our parking lots are just massive, and it just makes sense at this point. Anyway, that may go away later, but for right now, 20% have to have electric charging, and also any business that gets a tax break from us, so some sort of tax incentive to bring your business there if they're doing work on their parking lot, if there's a new parking lot that's going up, or even just paving. It doesn't have to be any kind of real serious structure work. Not painting a stripe, and that's been happening. And in fact, I just went and tested. We put in 50 at our county center where we have concerts and all sorts of things. It's a multi-use property. Basically it's in a park, and you can take your bike and ride up and down the parkway. It's about 15 miles, as well as you can just walk along there, but you can go to the county center. There's some restaurants. It's got multiple use. We got 50 chargers that we're having a press event about next week to make sure everybody knows that it's up and running. So that's the second one. And what's the other way? I'm getting old.
Well,
Oh,
I'll tell you,
actually, the biggest one is the last one is our grant program. So for all the municipalities, we've got 45 municipalities in Westchester County, and we are paying 50% of the design, the consultation, the infrastructure, the installation, and the charger itself. We are paying 50% of that, and the other 50% can come from NYSERDA, the organization that we talked about, as well as the utilities. So that is just tremendous. So we've received applications from a couple dozen of our municipalities to put a close to 630 some ports in on their property. It has to be for the public, and it has to be on their property. And then we're putting in 400 new ones of our own easily, and that's for the public as well as for our own fleet. Has to be public facing as well as for our employees. So
okay.
that is nobody's doing anything like that.
No, the benefits are, there's so many. It's hard for I won't even try to dive into it. But cost, obviously, a small business owner that says, "Oh, what am I going to do? Maybe I got a grant from you guys to build something in the past, and now I have to make an improvement. How can I afford to put in all this charging?" You are taking care of 50% of it. You're giving these owners of businesses or partners of yours an opportunity to get the other 50% in other ways through grants, right? So the cost, and then the other side of cost, obviously, is price, right? So talk to me about fuel savings, right? You've got a fleet of buses. What kind of fuel savings are you looking at?
Yeah, so every one of our buses, all 400 buses, are either basically a plug-in hybrid or electric. We really right now we're adding more and more electric buses, full electric. We only have 12 right now, and that's mostly because of the charging capacity. You can imagine the batteries on those suckers, and it's massive. So that's what's hindering us at this point. So even before we got the electric vehicles, we were buying these electric hybrid. They have a diesel engine in them, and they run so that creates electricity. So the whole bus is run on electric, but it's run from the diesel engine. And we saved over $1 million annually on our fuel costs that first year, and that's before the electric vehicles came on board, the 12. So
I think
I
that's
hadn't really
important to
calculated
note.
the update on that.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to interrupt. But I think that's important to note because with all this development, and obviously this is a change, right? We're changing the way that we move
Transition.
around, and with these changes, it's not always just cost. There can be savings that are made, especially with those larger vehicles. Do you find with a plug-in hybrid bus, are you getting most of the range on electric anyway, or is it just an
No.
extremely large savings in efficiency?
Efficiency, and also, those of us that are working on EVs, we got to constantly think about the air quality. The air quality is a key part here. So especially with the buses, those buses don't get, they don't even, I don't even think they get 3 miles on an electric charge, quite frankly. We call it depot mode. So when they're in the depot, which is a enclosed kind of in a big gigantic garage where 3 people come in to get on the bus. And also when they're just sitting there idling, they go on the full electric. So it minimizes running the engines all the time. So
Well, that's a huge hit for economy because my wife drives for a living. She does in-home care. So she's in and out of her vehicle all day, and she's also in her vehicle doing work stationary all the time.
Yeah.
That run time is extremely inefficient when you're running on fossil fuel. But for electric, it's just an HVAC. It's kind of sitting idle, really. And I think a lot of the savings from at least a plug-in hybrid would come there, I would think.
That's exactly where it is. That's exactly where it is. And I'll tell you, I love it. There's nothing better than, especially the cold weather we've had this winter season. Turning on that remote and getting your car warmed up before you get in, and not running any fumes or anything like that.
Stay in the garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nothing makes me happier. I hope my wife isn't watching this. No, I'm just, I'll turn off. But I have solar as well, so we're electrifying our entire house.
Right.
The one thing that we even electrified our dryer. And that's a step because using gas is dry, and gas heat is dry in itself. So
Sure.
we did it because we have this abundance of electricity coming from our solar. And the last thing that we have converted to electric is our stove. We haven't done that yet because it's still operating, and we're not going to throw it away. But
That's part of sustainability too, though, right?
100%, 100%. Yeah.
No, I mean, just because you burn fuel oil doesn't mean it's bad for the environment. If it's cost effective for the current time, you have to do what is the most efficient and effective. And so I'm sure you play a lot of balancing acts in your role.
Big time, big time, big time. Just like look at, I know you're big on this. You got to look at the ancillary benefits of, any of this stuff we're doing and that's why I mentioned the pollution. We have a lot of traffic. We've got 2 major highways that go through Westchester. One that comes, all the way from Canada down, that's called the New York Thruway, and then the other one is I-95. So you've heard of I-95.
We all know 95.
Yeah, we all know I-95. Yeah. And they go right through Westchester, and we have the cross to get to that, and it's just a ton of vehicles. It's by far our largest polluter of our air. So anything we can do to promote, EVs and cleaning up the air, that's awesome.
One of the staples to the conversations we've had previously has been that elections have consequences, and you do not need to dive deep here because I feel like our audience doesn't need something like that. But can you explain how a municipality that maybe isn't involved in some of these programs, like what would be the first steps for either a community member to recommend this, or if maybe somebody in that kind of a role is watching, what would their first steps be to kind of start this? A campaign to be just even if it's just something small, what would the first step be, and what would you recommend?
Well, I recommend going through the grassroots angle at first to make sure you got the buy-in from the local residents. But the big thing is I look at all the other things which you we've even talked about, you've mentioned here today, is, the cost savings. So there's a lot of money that can be saved. And, money is money, is king. So, and there's also a great opportunity for public-private partnerships, especially when it comes around to charging, as you well know as well, that the charging companies will come in, they'll, because there's an expense to it, right? It's a pretty large expense to add the infrastructure, especially on a municipal scale. Or
Right.
not for your house. I mean, I got mine done for $500-600 for a level 2 to bring 220-240 into my, but so I would promote the ancillary benefits of it, the cleaner air, which would be tough in West Virginia to push that, but, the cleaner air, the cost savings, um, uh, all those kind of thing, and the cost of the vehicles are down now. They're just the same price to me as a regular vehicle. I'm sure there's a difference,
If
but,
you're looking for a deal, the price parity is available. I'm a small business owner, right? And I'm worried about all these costs. There
yeah,
was a study from MIT that the results were the more charging that is accessible near you, the more likely you are to have an improved, basically, foot traffic for businesses. Have you seen that in Westchester?
definitely. Oh my gosh, definitely, definitely. And we see, you must see it all up and down wherever thoroughfare you're taking. It's a great opportunity. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to spend some time there, especially like I was mentioning the 50 that we're putting in near our county center. It's got so many benefits. You can go for a bike. You could take your. We have beautiful bike trails. You can go to the county center. There's events there. There's restaurants. So there's definitely, and there's a business model there for some of these charging companies that will bring them to your facility. They'll pay for it. You don't have to pay for anything. They'll even pay for the electricity in some cases if you have one of those like a display, a video display that's advertising perhaps things that you want to advertise or things that they want to advertise. There's a lot of great opportunities in public-private partnership.
Well,
You know,
and in my opinion, it's a good way to revitalize midtowns and downtowns.
there
They've
you
been
go.
suffering in rural areas for decades. Industrialization has obviously shifted. That's a whole older era that we
Yeah.
probably won't see again, at least in the capacity it was. I feel like adding charging as a smaller part of a midtown or a downtown area is just another way to bring more people in, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I just see
And,
that
the
as
use case, depending on where it is, like, so one of the, my daughter's going to the University of Vermont, so we make these longer trips. It's about, 5.5, 6 hour drive up to there. That's going to be my first long trip. She's over in the Netherlands right now, riding her
oh
bike
wow,
around, riding their bike around the Netherlands and study abroad.
yeah,
But we're going to be
very carbon neutral.
very carbon. Oh my gosh. Forget about it. Bikes everywhere, and bike lanes and bike parking and it's all about biking, but
Like safety too. That's another big focus is they're very focused on safety there for pedestrians and bikes, and that's part of the reason why so many people use them.
yeah, yeah, like, yeah. Well, they say Copenhagen is like one of the leaders in that, like they have whole highways built for it, I'm looking forward to going over there to visit with her in April. So,
That sounds just absolutely wonderful as far as an experience and an opportunity.
uh,
So I really think so if I'm an individual, because we've definitely covered so small businesses, you need to research, right? Find out what opportunities you have for grants and what your electric company is willing to do. And if there's anybody out there willing to pay for it. We have programs. It's called Rural Reimagined. I don't know. I hope it stays around. But you can contact them and they will essentially provide the hardware for free. I mean, it's just, you call them.
yeah,
Obviously there's a wait and, but all of the paperwork, the red tape, the hard stuff is done for you. And then all you have to do is just continue to maintain your charger and keep it running. And have you found a lot of talk to me about, is there an employment opportunity there with charging as well to keep these things maintained? Is there an opportunity for jobs too, or
yeah. So that's one of the things that I work with. Woman down the hall is a director of business economic development, and not exactly on EVs and EV charging, but there is a conversion process that's going on right now to work on these vehicles. which is separate. But we have a workforce development of around renewable energy, whether it's geothermal, adding solar to your home, and energy efficiencies, and air and ground source heat pumps are really the key. The holy grail is to have solar, a geothermal, electric vehicle. You're doing it all there. So that's the future.
Yeah, I've had a couple guests on the channel. I had one guy who we were fellow Fisker Ocean owners, and that's a story we can definitely save for another day. That
You told me a little bit about that.
Yeah. It was a nightmare, but he has a carbon neutral house, and I got to go out, and he's an HVAC professional. He's in that industry.
Oh, there you go.
And there's so much cost savings to be had. It's not just the cars and the plugging in, but I think it's so nice to get an opportunity to talk to you, because it seems to me like you have a hand in all of this, and it all works together. You save $1 here, you provide $1 here for an opportunity, and it all comes together. Do you have a dream electric vehicle? And talk to me about electric vehicle availability. I know you touched on it earlier. What happens? What can we do to make selection better? Is there a selection problem when it comes to EVs, or are they
getting better and better? As I mentioned before, the reason I got my Prologue, it's getting better and better. But, so we have also these, they're larger than just a van. They're people moving type of vans, the bigger kind of mini transit type of things. And we got a price on one, and it was $1 million. Like what? It just can't, it's not there, so
now, and that's with the heavy equipment too. You also mentioned heavy machinery. Is that part of the challenge there?
Big time for us, because we have dump trucks, we've got tow trucks, we've got snowplow. We got all kinds of heavy equipment that just obviously is not there yet. And I'm interested to hear from you. I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Where do you stand, or what do you know about the hydrogen? That's what we're looking at, at our airports. We have an airport, we have an amusement park, we have 7, we've got a wide spectrum of things, and we're looking at electrifying the airport, with these gyrocopter type of things.
I think with air travel, hydrogen is a great option, because there's just not enough energy density in batteries to be able to move forward. You don't have the hardest thing about hydrogen, and I'm sure you know this, is that and I mean, it's the most, like 95, depending on who you ask, % of the hydrogen is produced using fossil fuels. So
wow.
You are not moving off of fossil fuels until you can, and it's the same problem with the cars, right? All you need is $3 trillion worth of hydrogen fuel stations, and then you can do hydrogen cars. Well, for $20, or, for $2,000, you can put a charger in your house, and the electricity is already running there. So I think that the larger scale stuff, even though, like I said, a lot of this hydrogen is blue hydrogen, I think they call it, where it's not green, but it's not,
right.
But it's efficiently produced, but it's still a fossil fuel based consumption. And so I do believe that hydrogen burns cleaner. It's better for the air. You're not shooting out these horrible fumes into the upper atmosphere. It can be good. And so I do think that there are use cases for hydrogen. I think large trucks is a really good case for hydrogen, especially like that plug-in hybrid you're talking about.
Yeah,
you run on
partial swap in and out the fuel cells. That's why they're so valuable. They're big things, like size of a apartment building, but they move them in and they move the other one out, and and what we're looking at is adding some hydrogen production, but using solar. So that's
well, that's the holy grail, is ultimately that green hydrogen. If you can
it does take a lot of electricity to create the hydrogen,
Yeah, you have to have, it's all about spending. And if you have, so when somebody says, hey, should we do a nuclear power plant? Maybe the better study is to say, how much hydrogen can we produce for that much money? And I think those kinds of studies will yield that hydrogen definitely has a very useful and legitimate place in any kind of energy transition. I do think there's definitely use for that. And that's a great question. I hope I answered it for you.
Yeah, no, I think you did. And, specifically, I was wondering about the cars. I know a Honda was looking at hydrogen, or one of the car companies was.
The Clarity that I had, the Honda Clarity, was initially developed as the FCV Clarity, and it was a hydrogen vehicle. It was available in LA. You could lease it on
California.
Yeah, but I mean, and then they've torn those hydrogen stations down, at least most of them, and so a hydrogen car is almost impossible to have now. There were 10, and now there's like 2 hydrogen stations left. But in the cars, it's very difficult. There's
Yeah.
refuel. If you think electric vehicle charging is annoying, I mean, hydrogen, you have to be physically, it's tough to plug in. It gets really cold. There are other risks. It's not like you can just, haphazardly grab the handle and shove it in there. I mean,
You
it's a
got perfect.
process, and it's very, I'd say the curve is a steep curve as far as learning how to do it. But, like I said, I think as far as transportation, air travel first, and then, like I said, large trucking. If you had a truck that ran on regular fuel, diesel fuel, clean biodiesel, hydrogen, and had a battery, I mean, you just use the correct fuel at the correct time, but you don't need
That's
any
your
mo
ideal. That's your ideal vehicle there, Adam. That's the idea.
I don't think so. I think that sounds to me like a mishmash monster, and it'd be a cool thing for a
Frankenstein.
Sunday monster truck rally. But
Yeah.
pick a couple of fuels, pick a clean fuel, and then pick an available fuel that we know how to use. Like you said, like a
Yeah.
bus. The bus has a plug-in hybrid. It's got a few miles, but really, trucks really need that. I mean, I live in the mountains, and I follow behind trucks when I travel. And at one point, they're going 85 downhill, and then when they make it to the next hill, they're going 40 by the time they reach the top. A little bit of an electric motor could change that. It would make
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Just a
trucks more
push. Yeah.
efficient,
Yeah.
and regenerative braking not available on a truck. I mean, how much savings is that for a driver? I don't have to replace my brakes as often. I mean, those are big maintenance things. So,
Yeah.
I could talk about hydrogen forever. I'm a big Honda guy, and Honda was really into hydrogen, let's say a decade and a half ago, and
Yeah.
they were going to do all this hydrogen home and all these things, and they realized that the infrastructure wasn't there, and the legislation wasn't there, and like you said,
Yeah.
elections have consequences. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it just hasn't been enough enthusiasm. It's a Japanese thing. Japanese companies are really into it.
Yeah.
So.
It's an interesting point about, Honda itself. I think you brought it up or somebody else brought it up, um, that they're an engine company, and that's why they've been so hesitant at getting into the EV. They make and, cars and motorcycles are down on the list. Their big one is just engines, making
Right.
generators, the massive things the size of your house, cut in generators, ship type of stuff and all that.
Yeah, I mean, they started with motorcycles. I mean, and you ask anyone who knows anything about motorcycles, and you don't get out of that conversation without mentioning Honda in one way or another, especially when it comes to value and performance, efficiency, repairability, reliability. Honda has always been an engine company. So for them to pivot in that way, it's kind of like asking BP to go solar. I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it really is. No, I don't think that's a bad idea for BP, because at the end of the day, they're an energy company, or any other any energy company at all. They should always have, and it's the same thing with them. I don't want to, because we have a drill baby drill policy, obviously at this point. I don't think there's anything wrong with producing energy.
Yeah.
But I do think that, technology and research and, things like that are gonna show that the more options we have, the better. And
Well, that's a good point, and that's the next, fossil fuels are a finite resource, maybe our lifetime, and but somewhere down the road, we're not going to have that anymore. So,
that's a conservation thing, in my opinion. The reason why we should be traveling not on fossil fuels is because we need them for other things. Plastic is such a huge part of our society.
yeah,
So many things are produced with fossil fuel. There's fossil fuel involved in building the roads themselves, and it never ends. There's so much petroleum use, and there's so many different tiers of refinement and sources, and we're going to need it. We're always going to need it.
right,
And
right,
in the event that we can't get it, or it becomes too difficult, or it becomes too expensive, because that's what happens, we'll be priced out, right? So we want the energy to continue to be affordable. The fossil fuels are a necessary evil, and the further we get off of them in ways that we can is the better. And the thing is, you're such an expert in this field. Um, what's the next move? What's on the horizon? What are you guys talking about behind closed doors? Am I asking you a secret you can't tell?
no, no. The one thing that we haven't talked about is batteries and battery energy storage. So,
Okay.
and that's something that we're working on here in Westchester. There was um, a very large, utility, size facility that was going on, and it was conveniently put on the very edge of the county line of the county to the north of us without talking to the people on our side, and it just threw everybody up
Oh, wow.
into arms because of, the dangers of the runaway. But, batteries, was one thing I said was the movie The Graduate, and, the the husband of the woman that was with the Dustin Hoffman character, comes up to him and says, "The future, son, is plastics." Well, the future now is batteries and battery energy storage, and it doesn't necessarily have to be lithium ion. It could be, some sort of energy storage facility, whatever that is. But it's kind of
Sand,
it's
hot
getting
water,
better and it's getting better. Yeah, we're working on a project right now. It was this company with NIPA, New York Power Authority, the company I mentioned before, that's in conjunction with them, that they got this new form of battery storage and they wanted to use us as a test case. And we said, sure, we have this one large property where our jail is. It's where our compost, facility. It's a property. We have the space, so we said we would, we would take a run at it. Um,
okay.
it,
Uh,
and then yeah,
so there's a discussion around, I mean, this is deep into the depths of the EV enthusiasts, of demand charges when it comes to DC fast charging, and the
yeah.
fact that the pricing is, 5x almost, basically the price of gas to drive your EV on a long trip. Um, can battery storage solve that? Can uh, can you have a battery backup DC
Yeah,
charger?
yeah, you would think, yeah, because you get the energy when it's cheap, and then put it out. It's got to be. It would have to be. It would have
There
to
are
be.
products available right now that offer a 220 or a 240, depending on how old your electrician is and their dialect. They're the same thing. But a 240-volt inlet is all you need for a DC fast charger if you have the battery backup. And, well, the battery backup runs out, the charger limits itself to a slower speed. But I feel like, you know, uh, and we talk about energy all the time. How about cryptocurrency? Is there any, you guys have any, um, you know, because there was a big hoopla around my local area because a crypto mining company wanted to come into town and the energy consumption, was the biggest question. How do you feel about that? Because,
Well,
they say electric vehicles are the biggest issue when it comes to the grid, but how about artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, things of that nature, basically compute? Is that
yeah,
an issue?
it is an issue, and there's a lot of legislation that's in the works. Up in Albany here. And that it's a really big issue. It's a huge draw on the capacity of our grid, and they're getting a free ride on it, quite frankly. They're
Okay.
making money off of, our cheap electricity and taking it away from other uses. So I personally, part of the legislation that I've been looking at is the fact that if you're gonna build a facility, okay, fine, but you need to start creating your own energy to fuel that to some degree or another. You're not maybe gonna fulfill all your needs, but certainly put up solar on the top of the roof of that thing for sure.
And that's the
And
but that's that
that,
same that's the same mentality you have with the charging, right? You make a parking lot improvement, you need to install a charger, right? Well, you build an energy intense facility, you should be generating some yourself, right? Same
yeah.
principle.
Same principle, same principle.
Well, I
Yeah.
tell you what, just for the sake of fun, my laptop was not high enough off the ground, so I have 1,000-watt preamp that I'm sitting it on right now for speakers. So I just as a segue, tell me about your band and tell me about how to get a hold of you. My viewers are always interested in new sources of information, and I really think this was just a great opportunity to talk to somebody involved in government, involved in public-private partnerships, and get your perspective. I'm so happy, but you got to tell me about Retro North and what it means.
There we go, Retro North. Yeah, no, Retro North is a play on words. Our train line here is called Metro North. So we did a play on that. Our logo is a play on it. I got let me see, let me see that. Is that
Okay.
coming in?
Yeah.
So the silver one kind of looks like the outside of the train, the stainless steel kind of outside of the train. And that's really the logo, except it's a train in there instead of a guy in a
I
guitar.
see it.
Yeah, yeah, Retro North. Um, and it's, we like to say a lot of originals. You know, the covers that we do are um, deep cuts of all the classics, you know,
Okay.
the band and the Stones, and then we do a lot of Dylan, quite frankly, but we do a lot of originals, and we play around here. It's a classic dad band. We're all in the, you know, all in our early 60s, except for me, I'm 65.
It's the least I could do to give you a plug today for taking the
Appreciate
time.
that. Thank
Oh,
you.
it's
Yeah,
my
it
pleasure.
is.
So if you're in the Westchester area, greater New York area, you know, look them up, Retro North,
Yeah, Retro
and go
North.
see a show.
Yeah, please. You know, our big goal right now is to get on the radio. You know, I think every band goes through that, you know, and
You know,
we'd
I
like
hosted for a year and a half. I hosted on a radio station. They gave me 1 hour every Sunday to play whatever I wanted as long as it was local. And the bands were tri-state by the time I was done because there was more of a traditional way of doing it before I came in. But I said, if you hit share and leave a comment on this post, I will consider you for the radio. And those were 500, 600 shares sometimes. And
yeah,
it really gave me a chance to reach out. And I believe a lot of bands were able to network using that. And it built kind of a fun infrastructure. So if you know any radio people, get them involved
I do. We have some really good radio people. We have a really good radio station here. They're almost too good for us. So,
Okay.
you know, I pushed them on getting Billy Strings on there, you know, and that was like, oh, I don't know, Pete, that's like country, isn't it? I'm like, no. And then I ran into him, but I ran into the you know, the program director and all, and they're like, Pete, you were so right, Billy Strings. I'm like, come on, man.
Well, we all know that just guitars and banjos have a very wide spectrum, and one end of the spectrum is country, and the other end is bluegrass, and that spectrum is very, very diverse. So, you know, I'm in country music country, I'm in bluegrass country,
Yeah,
Appalachia. I'm deep into the Appalachian Mountains.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, we definitely appreciate our bluegrass in every flavor around here. So,
I do. You know, as I mentioned, you know, come from Cincinnati, and my dad is a band leader. He had to play Dixieland, and he played the banjo, but more of a tenor, you know, a Electron banjo, and but Dixieland mostly. But you know, we still enjoyed bluegrass. You know, being from Southwest Ohio and Kentucky and all that, and got a real love for it. And then during COVID, I just got back into it again. I really appreciate it. I go to a lot of concerts. I love live music. I live for it. Being, you know, just a 20-minute train ride from downtown Manhattan, I go to a lot of shows down there. And but I'm checking out New Potato Caboose. Have you heard of this band?
I did. I've done some work for them. So there's another plug. But I tell you what, when people reach out to you now, they know what they can talk to you about if they want to chop it up. And
Yeah.
that's always a great opportunity. And finally, I do want to give you an opportunity to plug. I know that there are small business owners that watch the channel. There are professionals, people in every level of government and small business that watch. And if they want to reach out to you either for advice, networking, or you know, just to ask a question, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I would say through email, quite frankly. And
Okay.
you know, it's my name, P. McCart, PMCCARTT at Westchester County, New York, NY.gov. So
I'll put it right up on the screen.
yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Well, I tell you what,
just easy.
the insights, the conversation, somebody comes up to you, and I get this all the time. Would you recommend a Honda Prologue to someone else and why?
Well, for the reasons that I took it, if that's what you're looking for, you know, everybody's looking for a different vehicle for a different purpose, you know. I love it, you know, and then the price, you know, that's been holding a lot of people back. I get that from our own legislators here, you know, like, well, Pete, you know, these EVs are great, but the delta on them is too high. This is less expensive than if I got, I don't know, a Ford Explorer, if you will, you
Well,
know.
I was the very earliest of the early adopters. I got the first Prologue available I was able to touch. I bought it. So I didn't get any discount. I paid sticker price, but I have no regrets because I got rid of my Fisker Nightmare. So
Yeah.
I was in a very unique position, and it was advantageous for me to take at the time. There is a constant ongoing debate about how cheap people can get a Prologue. Care to share?
Yeah, I will, because of course we're always proud of, you know, what we got. But I got a 239 lease, $3,500 down, and a 3-year, 10,000 miles. So
Okay, so there it is. So if you beat him on your deal, let me know in the comments. Peter McCart, Director of Energy Conservation and Sustainability, Westchester County. Thank you so much.
Adam, been great talking with you over the past few weeks, and I appreciate what you do. I make sure talk about sustainability. I hope everybody likes your channel and throws you as a membership. I joined you as a member there, and I bought a T-shirt. We didn't talk about 80 etiquette.
So yeah, EV80 kit. What do you think about? I came up with that myself. Now I had some help with the name, but what do you think? Do you think that's something that people should look into?
With me, but that might be just my age or something like that. But I love the concept because it's really important. There are no laws. There's no real jurisdiction. There might be a sign that says for EV drive or cars only. I've seen people parking with an EV car, but they're not charging because they know they can kind of get away with it.
Right.
But I love your program. I got my phone number here. I'm not going to let everybody see that I get my phone number. I'm going to put it in there because that's what we need to do. I think there's a community that understands this and appreciates it and does the right thing. You get to that 80% and then it starts slowly charging. Take it off. Take it off unless you really, really need that 100% to get you the next charger.
And it's all about
really
education
appreciate
as well.
what you're doing there.
Right.
Great.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah,
It's been a pleasure. We'll talk soon. I'll have you back on the channel maybe.
Okay, cool.
Thanks again, Peter.
Thank you. Keep it up.